With polls closed in 39 states and the District of Columbia, Democrat Bill Clinton has opened a commanding electoral lead over President George Bush. He is well within striking distance of that magic number 270. The Democratic standard-bearer and his running mate Al Gore, both sons of the South, have loosened the longtime Republican lock on Dixie, scoring wins in Georgia, Kentucky, and Tennessee.
Well, and in the East, the plum states of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, they've tumbled into the Clinton column. The Democratic duo has also triumphed in New Hampshire and Vermont, both traditionally GOP turf.
4 years ago, George Bush rode to victory with a 40-state win. At the moment, he's scrambling for states. The incumbent's biggest electoral takes to this hour, Virginia and Dan Quayle's home state of Indiana. Florida and Texas Republican must-wins in virtually every scenario remain up in the air.
And according to exit polls from across the country, people are casting their ballots based primarily on pocketbook concerns.
Now to the South and Bonnie Anderson.
It's been a night of very tight races in the South, but right now we are able to call Wyche Fowler the winner in the Georgia Senate race. The freshman senator defeated Paul Coverdell, the former Peace Corps director, a race that drew extremely close in the final weeks after Coverdell publicized statements Fowler made years ago that he bounced checks at the House bank. And as we reported just moments ago, the suspense is over in the South Carolina Senate race. Ernest Hollings has defeated Tommy Hartnett. The 26-year incumbent had been targeted by the GOP since he voted against the Gulf War. It was an extremely hotly contested race. Now, there is still a very close Senate race up for grabs at this hour. We do have some vote counts, but our exit poll data suggests these races are still too close to call. In the North Carolina Senate race, the battle continues between incumbent Terry Sanford and Locke Faircloth. This is seen as a GOP takeover possibility. Now, going into tonight, the South had 5 black members of Congress. That number has already doubled among the black candidates who've won. James Clyburn in South Carolina's 6th congressional district. He becomes South Carolina's first black congressman this century. And in Georgia's 11th congressional district, Cynthia McKinney wins in a new black majority district that stretches 250 miles and is 60% black. Other winners tonight. In North Carolina, former Governor Jim Hunt will be the state's next governor, defeating Jim Gardner in the meanest, most personal political campaign in the state's history, according to analysts. In Arkansas, incumbent Dale Bumpers is the winner over Mike Huckabee, a Baptist minister. Bumpers is an outspoken liberal. He'll return to Capitol Hill for a 4th term. And in the Oklahoma Senate race, Republican incumbent Don Nichols has won a 3rd term, defeating former State House Speaker Steve Lewis. In Kentucky, Wendell Ford has won a 4th term in the Senate race, soundly defeating David Williams. Now, back to the National Desk.
Well, thanks, Bonnie. Well, in the states that we've seen thus far, what happened to the anti-incumbent mood?
Well, you know, we asked the voters around the country if they agreed with the statement that government would work better in this country if all new people were elected this year. Now, 51% of the voters nationwide agreed with that. Only 44% disagreed. And they're voting for term limits, but those are cheap sentiments. Are they voting for incumbents or for challengers? They're not turning very many incumbents out. We can see that in the Senate races. So far, not one incumbent senator has lost. And in fact, 60% of the people who said it would be better to elect all new people to government still voted for their incumbent in the House of Representatives. How about that?
You have one new face so far in the Senate who has not been in the Congress, and that's Carol Moseley Braun. One analyst in the Washington Post last Sunday said there would be 1,800 years of seniority lost in this congressional election alone. If that's the case, they're going to have to find it all in the House, guys.
I wonder what they're doing down at Ross Perot's headquarters in Dallas. Let's check in with Tony Clark and see what he's got to report. Tony?
Bernie, it may be a little bit hard to hear me. In fact, if you look around, you can see the crowd, the band playing here. It is really, it's a celebration here, although across town at Ross Perot's home, that's where he is. He is having dinner with family, friends, Admiral Stockdale, his vice presidential running mate. We were told just a short time ago that the group over at Mr. Perot's home isn't watching the returns, but rather they are talking about the impact the Texas billionaire has had on this race. They say his legacy may be that he elevated the presidential debate this year, that he showed that someone who is non-affiliated with either of the parties can have an impact. And they also say, as we have been able to look at the polls coming in, the exit polls and the projections for his showing, if he gets in the mid-teens, the 15 to 19% that we're seeing in some states, they say that will be a victory. Already Orson Swindle, the head of his organization, United We Stand America, said, come tomorrow, regardless of what happens in this election, the organization won't go away. They will be a force to be contended with. Ross Perot should be here probably between 10 and 10:30 Eastern time, and that's what everyone here is waiting for. Back to the National Desk.
Well, thanks, Tony. Not too far away, but in Texas terms across the state, we're going to go down to Houston, check in with a picture at the Galleria Ballroom, where President Bush's supporters have gathered to await remarks from the president at some point this evening.
Houston is where the president started his political career as a county chairman, went to Congress for a couple of terms from Houston, had his convention in Houston this time, and keeps a hotel suite in Houston as a residence.
And over to Arkansas, in Little Rock, a place where if you're in this area, in this city, in this ballroom, you have a pretty hot ticket because people are anticipating victory.
Bernie, I think they're also anticipating a hurricane there tonight. Don't they have a hurricane warning?
That was earlier in the
tornado
evening.
warning.
That was earlier in the
Some have
evening.
said they expect as many as 30,000 people to be celebrating outside the State House there in Little Rock tonight.
Yes. Bill Clinton kept his campaign located in Little Rock to demonstrate that he was from outside of Washington.
Well, much more to come in this election night reporting, and we'll be right back.
CNN's election coverage is brought to you in part by the new Dodge, a division of the Chrysler Corporation.
It has a 10-cylinder, 400-horsepower engine and seats up to 7. It hits over 1 G on a skid pad and has an available built-in child seat. Its front fenders resist dents and chips. It has 133 sound deadeners, silencers, baffles, and mufflers. And there's room in back for 49 bags of groceries. Caravan, Viper, and Intrepid. The new Dodge.
The Movado Museum Sports Edition watch. A tribute to the spirit it takes to play the game and win. The Sports Edition Museum watch for men and women from Movado.
When the pressure's really coming down, why worry about printing? Just call Sir Speedy. From design and typesetting to color printing and binding, Sir Speedy will handle it, and things will start looking up. Sir Speedy, the business printers, the right impression every time.
Aren't faxes great? Easy to handle, easy to copy, and always perfectly flat. With no annoying curls, right? Wrong. That's why Brothers Affordable IntelliFax series feature the ACS Anti-Curl System, which produces flat faxes using standard fax paper. Brother IntelliFax series also include ThermaPlus, the fax paper that looks and feels like plain paper. Get the facts straight with Brother IntelliFax.
This can't go on. Let me see that. There's got to be a better way. It's time to rethink everything.
Where do we start?
The legendary watch dial, exhibited in distinguished museums around the world, is the design inspiration for the Movado Museum collection of watches. Movado, the museum watch.